Unfortunately, the summer is nearly over, but if you live in the world of digital procurement and supply chain, I've got good news for you, and that is that the second part of the event season is upon us, and there's some really exciting events to attend between now and the end of the year. And I'll talk about those in a moment, but first, we're going to look at what we saw earlier on this year and what we learned from that, because quite a lot of organisations come to me and ask me which events should we consider sponsoring, and other individuals ask me about going on their own behalf. Because everyone knows that I go to all these things and we've got some fairly strong opinions on what makes for the best events in our sector. So earlier on this year, we had two that stand out to me. We had the World Procurement Congress and we had Cooper Inspire. And I think the World Procurement Congress is an interesting one to look at because for me, historically, the agenda's been a bit samey, a bit too much talk about seat at the top table and procurement delivering more value. Of course, those are important topics, but we've heard them all for a number of years now. And I think in response to some of the competition, WPC had a much better agenda this year. And that's important because you need that agenda to attract the right delegates. And you need senior delegates, decision makers, really influential people in their organisations, because that's what the sponsors need. The sponsors pay a lot of money to come to these events, and they want to talk to senior people that they think they can potentially sell to in the future and certainly build important relationships with. So that's a sort of the virtuous circle you need to create to make everyone happy. And I think the agenda is at the heart of that. And WPC did better on that front this year. The actual venue is also very important. I think, I've seen examples that really work well and work badly. And I think if you look at Cooper Inspire this year, which was a pretty good event generally, but I don't think it's as good as previous Cooper Inspires because of the venue. And I talked about that in the video that I made at the time, which is still available on our YouTube channel. But the right venue needs to feel busy without being, too busy. It needs to be that energy around the room to create that better sort of feel. People enjoy it more, better networking. It's good for the sponsors, good for the delegates, good sort of exchange of information around the room. And that's very important, as are other practical considerations like just the date, don't have the same date as another event, which has happened a few times. The food, people complain when the food's terrible, but as with the case with WPC this year, the food was fantastic and people talk about that. Accessibility, cost, of course. And also the online side of things, we've had a lot of that immediately post-pandemic. That's been diluted a little bit as we go back to more in-person events. But I know, for example, Digital Procurement World, which I'll talk about in a moment, they've invested a lot in making sure their online events really, really top-notch this year, which is important for those that can't travel to Amsterdam for 2 or 3 days, can't afford that time out of their schedule, or may not be able to get the backing to spend the money to attend the event. So, yeah, those are things that I think people should think about when they're considering which events to attend and why. In terms of what we've got coming up, well, there's a few that stand out. I've mentioned Digital Procurement World. DPW, as everyone knows it, is a really exciting event, full of innovation, even more so this year than ever. Spoke to Matthias Guzman recently, and it's really exciting what they're doing, and I'll talk about that in a separate video. But for me, that's a must-attend event. He's got a wonderful array of tech sponsors, and I know he's got a really big-hitting sort of list of delegates attending. And again, that goes back to the wonderful innovation that he's brought in his agenda, bringing top voices from within procurement and outside to make it that much more educational experience. I think is so important. Another event I'm excited about going to is Jagger's Rev event in Barcelona in November. I'm privileged to have been asked to speak at that. So if you need any reason to attend that, there you go. But seriously, they've got a really innovative and exciting agenda there. There's a lot of time, effort and resource going into making that a fantastic event. I'm also interested to note that SAP, they're doing a Spend Connect event in October in Vienna. And I think this is the first dedicated procurement event they've done since the pandemic. Because I know prior to 2020, Ariba Live was a key part of the calendar. I always loved going to that. But I don't think they've done Ariba Live since. And so Spend Connect in Vienna, it'd be interesting to see how they fare with their agenda, their venue, and all those other things. I hope you found that useful. If you're going to any of these events, come and find me, say hello. I'd love to meet you or catch up. If you want any more thoughts on some of these other events that are going on, you might want to ask me things that I don't feel comfortable saying on a public video, then I'm happy to have those conversations. Similarly, if you're wondering about doing a bit of networking yourself to advance your own career, again, love to hear from you. So hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching. And if you want to get in touch, you can always get us via everyday.com. and you can learn more about some thoughts on individual events on our YouTube channel.